Wammo breakfast.
Game junkie, Gerard Campbell.
Hey, so I was watching this thing on TV last night. This guy was on, one of them vegetarians, you know? Those freaks who don't eat meat. He was talking some shit about how it's bad to kill animals for food. As far as I'm concerned, I'm all for killing, if it's for good reason. And eating this steak is definitely a good reason. So, what about you, Vito? You against killing animals? How about, the human animal?
Killing the human animal. It's got to be a Mafia film? No, it's a Mafia game. And it's Mafia 2, in fact, the second in a series. Gerard Campbell at stuff.co.nz is along to discuss the game with us this morning. Good morning to you, Gerard.
Good morning to Wammo. How are you this morning?
Good. In fact, it's out later on this week, but the demo has already landed, and we've both had a bit of a hands-on with that.
Yeah, I think the full game's out on the 26th. I think that's Thursday. And for people to know, the original Mafia first came out on the PC, and it was, what I consider one of the best Mafia games around. It had a real good atmosphere. It had a few clunky missions in it, but that was okay. They did release console versions, I think, on PS2 and Xbox, but they did suck big time. So the developer was coming from 2K, and so I've spoken to one of the developers when I was in E3, and he said that that they admitted that the console version was rubbish. So they've actually done, rather than port the PC one consoles this time, they've actually done standalone versions. So with a bit of luck, console owners going to get a lot better deal this time. But yeah, the story is pretty much you play a guy called Vito Scaletta, who is, I guess for a better word, he's a Sicilian immigrant, comes over with his family, goes to the war, comes back from the war, and sort of to help get his family out of poverty and sort of moves way up. Sort of starts in the bottom ranks of the Italian mafia there in a place called Empire Bay, which seems to be sort of a fictional amalgamation of sort of San Francisco and New York, I think, and sort of works his way up through the ranks. And yeah, it's got a real, I guess it's one of those games that sort of lets you live out those mob fantasies and sort of
you got mob fantasies?
mob fantasies, and sort of play, a lead role in a Goodfellas or a Godfather movie. But as you said, we've both played the demo, and it's very short. It was a very short demo, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It sets the scene with who's the lead character, the guy you're playing? Vito. In his house, and there's obviously a hit going down. And it gives you 30 minutes, the demo, but it's about 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah, it seems to be about that, yeah.
To basically get to the scene of the hit so you can go through and go through the motions of doing it. But in the meantime, you could also wander around the free world, because this is an open world game, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I guess it's in the vein of those games, like Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row and those sorts of things that... you've got missions that you can do, but you can also, in your downtime, you can sort of investigate cities. And with the demo that's out at the moment, it's a time demo, so you've got to have, I think you've got something like 10 minutes from once you leave your house. You start the demo in your house to get to, the starting point for this first mission. So you can sort of have a bit of a tootle around, if you like, just to sort of see, what's going on. And I think that, the demo, I think there was a big disclaimer at the front saying that the demo wouldn't appear. Well, the mission that this demo is taken from wouldn't appear in this form. So obviously, there wasn't really a lot of interaction from pedestrians and much to do. So I think that things have changed. But it certainly showed that it's a really large city. But, you can do things like, go down the docks and punch out a few fishermen, and you can, you can blow up petrol stations. And you
that's
can
the fun stuff.
Cops. It is fun stuff, do jumps and that sort of thing. and something too that's been changed from in the first game. It's set in the 90s, 40s and 50s, and the cops were really harder. So, if you went over the speed limit by a fraction, the cops would really come down you really heavily. So this time, 2K have told me that the cops have been toned down a wee bit.
Okay.
You'll still get picked up by the cops if you do a major infraction or something, do a major speed. And you probably saw from the demo that I think there's a meter on your heads-up display, showing your car speedometer, that if your speed goes over certain speed for too long, then the cops will come after you. So if the cops stop you, you can either fight your way out of it, or you can pay them a bribe. So, you sort of got that, that sort of mafioso, let's pay the cops off, sort of thing. But I think the thing that I'm really looking forward to in Mafia 2 is it seems to have, the story seems to be really well developed. As Vito's making his way up from, this, I guess, just the little, the guy that does all the work for the mob to sort of work his way up through the ranks.
Yeah. But the comparisons, are kind of obvious, aren't they, between, say, Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, or any of the Grand Theft Auto franchise, and this one? Does it play similar? I mean, or is the storyline similar? Can we draw these comparisons?
Well, I mean, I think you can probably draw the comparison that there is a similar sort of open world game, and you can steal cars and drive cars, and you can go from A to B. I think probably that the story, perhaps here is, because it's steeped in that sort of Godfather sort of ethos. I think that it's probably a more tightly knit story. I think that it's got that mystique about it with the mob. But yeah, obviously it's gonna get those comparisons. But I think there's enough here to sort of justify that difference between the two. I think at the end of the day, a lot of open world games where you can, go from point A to B or steal vehicles, they're going to sort of have that Grand Theft Auto comparison at some stage, aren't they? But I think with this one, I think that the story seems really compelling, and the characters seem, especially Vito. Vito seems really sort of a compelling topic. So it'd be nice to see, how it's developed from, with the first Mafia game, where it's a completely different character, but how they set up the mob there and the guys moving through the ranks, to see how it develops sort of into this, I guess, the next generation that we've got.
And how did you find the combat side of it?
I played the demo on the PC, so it seemed, the gunplay seemed really well. The cover system seemed a little bit clunky for my liking at this stage. Maybe that could have just been the demo. It seemed to be that it was quite finicky in terms of where you found cover, and then suddenly if you hit the button too quickly, you pop out again or you pop back.
Right.
So that could have just been getting used. But the combat seemed to be really meaty. There's a lot of really strong weapons that you can use. There's shotguns and Tommy guns and pistols and usual punching, that sort of thing. So I think it's it's got the standard traditional sandbox action trademarks.
And the ability to destroy the environment is quite refreshing.
Yeah, I think that these days with these sort of third-person action games, there's got to be a bit of a point of difference in the fact that you can destroy things in the environment, and that you can sort of make it work to your advantage. Is going to be really good. But it's also going to be interesting to see how the character AI works in terms of whether I noticed it in the demo, which was a good thing, that you could, if you're assaulting in the warehouse, and if you're assaulting the bad guys, rather than just going them head on, you could actually flank them, around some cover, and actually take two guys out from behind and that sort of thing. So it's going to be good to see what sort of difference in the combat mechanics that we've got, to see whether it sort of differentiates itself from games like Grand Theft Auto and those sorts of things. But I think that for me, the subject matter is the one that's going to really hit home, and I think if it can really create that mob movie atmosphere, that you think you've been drawn into a life of the mobster, then I think it's going to really succeed.
Cool. And it's coming out this week on various platforms: Xbox 360, PC,
and PlayStation 3.
PlayStation 3. Excellent. Thanks very much.
Not a problem.
Gerard, over at stuff.co.nz, of course, and on Twitter, twitter.com/GameJunkie.